So I'm going to have you remain standing for a second because I'm going to introduce you to our next speaker, and that happens to be my husband, Yardley. And what I'm really excited about is Yardley actually is a certified NLP and NAP practitioner also. He's been featured on CBS, he's been on The Talk, he's spoke at Harvard. He became really passionate about relationships when he actually identified with what it felt like to be feminine and what it felt like to be masculine all his life and get shifted back. And it was really an important piece in our relationship to find our balance. And you'll see he's very passionate about it. So give Yardley a warm FAB welcome.
Good morning. That's right, you can get your groove on, it's no problem. No, I saw the movie Hitch, it was one of my favorites. It was like, you gotta be kidding me, because I love the movie, but I was like just doing this thing. It was like, it wasn't working well, but please have a seat, thank you.
You want to get this out there now before you start?
No, don't worry, I got it, honey.
It's not going to look good in the camera over here.
My mic's on. Honey, don't worry about it, we're good. So anyway, this is all about masculine and feminine that we're gonna be talking about, but more importantly, it's about communication. So I wanted to start off right away with an exercise. So what I'm gonna do really simple is I'm gonna divide the room in half so that we got this side and we have this side. So just by a show of hands, because we're just gonna go majority, would you like to work on sex or learning? Sex, okay. Sex or learning? It could be the same with sex. Sex or learning? Sex, okay, good. So this is what it is. You're not competing with one another, but in your team, what I want you to do right now, pick up a piece of paper and a pen without looking at your neighbor. This is what you're gonna do. You got about a minute and a half. You're gonna number 1 to 10, okay? And what you're gonna do is you're gonna describe, since both groups decided we're gonna talk about sex, you're gonna describe what sex means to you in one word. But we're gonna give you 10 words. Does that make sense? So give me 10 single words of describing of what sex means to you. Single words. Got that?
We have to write them.
Write them down. Just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And just, it doesn't matter, order is not important. Just 10, one word. What does sex mean to you? All right, you should be finishing up.
You're not that fast.
When you're done, please stand up. Okay, so the group on my left, please just go over here for a moment because your whole team's gonna go over here. And on the right, if you can just go and for the people on my right, just go over there and stand when you're ready. Ready. So this is what you got. Who's your volunteer? Tahita. And your volunteer? Cynthia? Excuse me? Janie. I'm sorry, Janie. So what I want you to do is just form a really small circle really quick. Janie's going to read her list of 10 words. Tahita's going to read her list of 10 words. If one of the 10 words, do me a favor when you start reading, if your word is on her, if what she says is on your list, raise your hands. And you'll need to let me know if you get a unanimous vote on your first word. Forget about the other 10 words. Okay, so go ahead, just read your first word and make sure you get a unanimous vote. Check this out. Then in your group, right here on this group, how many out of the 10 words of Tahita, we didn't go around the room, but obviously how many did you get as everybody got the same word? None. On this group, how many out of Janie's, how many got the same word? None. So check this out. Out of an entire group, tell me if you would agree, you're an entire group of like-minded women. Over the entire weekend, you've been connecting with each other and feeling each other out, and you're women. Does that make sense? Which means, from communication purposes as a woman, you should be able to know exactly how each other feel along the way. But yet, when we do, no questions yet, Joanne, but yet, when we do this simple little exercise of what 10 words that you can relate to, I give you 10 chances. Now, we could have done learning, like what's a word for learning? And you might have popped in your head education, whatever the case may be, right? Seminars. But sex or learning, and we use sex for both of you, that's fine. Nobody can come up with a unanimous vote. Follow me on this. You're women. You're like-minded. You're in tune with each other. Can you imagine trying to communicate with the guys? Because oftentimes, right off the bat, you think that you know each other when you're communicating with each other. You understand what each other are talking about, what you're each thinking about. And you're women. Can you imagine talking to the opposite sex? How much more different does that make sense? I was just doing an exercise of all women. I kind of figured there'd be at least one or two words out of the whole group that everybody was unanimous on. And you couldn't even come, although I saw some over here, there was like 8, 7, 8, okay. And over here you got like 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Does that make sense? But you couldn't get a unanimous vote. But that's what I want to lead you with, just to keep in mind, like, wow, communication challenges. I thought I can talk to my girlfriend. We're more in tune with each other, but talking to the opposite sex, I'm really going to get confused. And that's where I want to share with you on part of my story. Do you mind if I share my story with you? Okay, so when I first met, here I am, single happy-go-lucky guy, former computer programmer consultant. And I'm like the man's man, making a lot of money, 6 figures, going along the way. And I was like, you know what? One thing I hated to do, I hated to date. Does anyone here like to date? Like to date? No, right? I was like, I don't like that whole, I hate rejection. So not that you would know what it feels like, but we're not in the day and age where the woman turns around and they'll ask the man, that's today. But in the society where when I grew up back in the 80s and stuff, or in the 90s, trying to get a date, it's like I kept on facing rejection. So that fear of rejection kept on coming in because every woman said, no, 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 no. I'm like, God, I feel rejected. And then I got into a business of sales later on after my computer programming thing. And what I have to do, I have to learn how to sell. And my wife taught me, go for the no. Go for the no? It's like I grew up with getting rejected my entire life. You understand that? So it's like, wow, this is not a good feeling for me. But anyhow, as it turns out, when I met my wife, this was really great. Ladies, tell me, do you like the idea of being a woman and having a man take care of you? Yes. Yeah, all right? It's like, yeah, that makes me feel good. If my man can take care of me, I can stay at home. I have the option if I want to work or do whatever I want, or if I want to raise a family, I can do that. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So we're on the same page. I was that way. I was like, this is good. I can take care of my wife. I'm making 6 figures. I met her. Her relationship wasn't any good. She was the breadwinner and stuff like that. But it's like, I could bring home the bacon. So I did. So what happened was here I am in my masculine state. I felt really good about myself. I was in control. I worked. I came home. My wife took care of everything, as in my mind, as she should. Because if we don't have any kids, because my son and grandkids are, from my first marriage, then my wife is doing nothing at home. We don't have any kids. We tried for 7 years. It didn't work out. I kind of figured she can do whatever she wants, and if I come home, she should take care of me. Stereotypical Italian, I'm not Italian, but it's your stereotypical Italian where man comes home, works, and then the woman takes care of everything else and serves the man. Does that make sense? Cool. So what happened was that back in 2001, I lost my job. Because of the 9/11 events, being a former computer programmer and consultant, what happened was that I went to lose my job, and all of a sudden there was this stroke that I don't know about you. Not only do I not like dating, but I also don't like going for interviews. Hate it. Hate it. So I refused to interview, and I was like, well, what else are we going to do? So we started another business, but all of a sudden my wife became the breadwinner. It was a culture shock because I had the employee mentality. I've never had a business on my own. My wife's had nothing but businesses of her own. So all of a sudden I said, okay, so we'll start a business together. But in the employee mentality mode, I started working for my wife. And then on top of working for my wife, what had happened was that I noticed that she became the breadwinner because she was the bread and butter, and she literally wore the pants in the family. This was not a good feeling for me because what happened was here I am wearing the pants in the family, my wife wearing these short skirts around the house and everything like that, pretty much butt naked most of the time. I'm coming home and she's wearing the pants. Actually, we're not even going, we're working from home. She's literally wearing the pants in the family. I said, what happened to my wife? She started going masculine, and all of a sudden, I was already domesticated being on my own, but I became even more domesticated. I took care of all the grocery shopping, I did everything. I started talking, and then after a couple years, what had transpired was the fact that I'm having lunch with her girlfriends. And my wife said, you know what, you're better girlfriends than with them than I am with them. What's up with that? What's wrong with this picture? And I was like, wow, this is not a happy situation. Because what happens when you're in a masculine and feminine, you'll find out who you are to the core, whether you're masculine or you're feminine. And there's no right or wrong, it just is, right? The challenge is if you're not at your core, it will grind against you and drive you nuts. You will feel horrible because it's not who you are inside. Because what happens is if you're in the core, like I am masculine to the core, what happened was that what we had a feminine mask put in front. And there could be multiple masks going back and forth, female, male, masculine, feminine. But what happened was that I actually had a feminine mask. So much so that after 8 years of not working and serving my wife all the time, that, some people, oh, that's really great, you take care of your wife. Yeah, it is to a point. Because ladies, let me ask you a question. If you had to worry about bringing home the bacon and working and making all the money, and your significant other, if you had one, served you all the time and pretty much stayed at home, it became the housewife, how would you feel? And it might not be a good feeling. Some of you are like, oh, I'm already used to it. I'm in that situation now. You know what I mean? But the idea is, do you want to be in that situation? Right? Because ultimately, most women, generally speaking, want to be taken care of by their man. It's not a healthy feeling. It's the reason why you get into the masculine. It's blamed for two things. Number one, the relationship that you're in or that you've been accustomed to is that you became masculine. You became the man in the family. Okay? Second, it's also because of society. The worst thing that could have happened is that equal rights movement for women, that a woman can do anything a man can, and that you're in a man's world. You ever hear those phrases, right? I can do anything. Great, I am woman. But the challenge is you became a man, and then when you went home, you forgot to drop the masculine mask and then bring back your feminine self, which is why last night, with what you went with the, quote, sexy yoga, I hope you had a really great time with that. Some of you might have been uncomfortable for whatever reason because you like your privacy. Great. You might have been uncomfortable because you're like, wow, this is weird. I've never felt like this before. Some of you are like, wow, this just opened me up and I feel so good. This is the way I should feel this. I'm congruent. I feel fantastic. I took the liberty this morning of hugging most of you. And just to give you a little heads up, there's 16 hugs in the world, types of hugs. There's the professional hug, there's the embracing hug. And I would like to define some of the hugs as even being masculine. Because some of you ladies, I'm not commenting, your hugs were my hugs. We're just like, done. I was like, wow. Or the professional one, which is the tap on the shoulder. But some of you grab, and it's like this. You ever get hugged really well? You get this full embrace, and you're like, oh my God, that feels so good. You're a great hugger. That's because you're in my opinion, you're in your full-on feminine at that point. But some of the hugs I got this morning, like, you're masculine. Just feel the energy. This thing last night was a temporary thing, which is why you have to keep coming back. But you're like so much into your masculine. I was like, wow, this is not good. We need to fix this. Because, ladies, my wife and I alluded to it at the beginning of the weekend, it's really simple. Men think, women feel. Right? So when Lisa says, get out of your head and get into your heart, what happens is really simple. That's because when you're in your head, you're dead. That's because you're in your masculine. And if you've heard that joke, not only do we have a head as a man, we actually have two heads. And usually we think with the bottom one, right? Well, ladies, when you're in your head, you're being that man space. And I get the fact when you're working and if you're in charge and you're in charge of your team or your team leader or you're the boss, I get the fact that you need to step up sometimes and, be that control freak or just get the job done, right? Because when you're in your masculine, that's what happens. We're all about delivery. Give me the job, let me get the task. We're task-oriented, we're just gonna get the job done. That's what a masculine form is done, right? Give me the thing, I will conquer it, I will fix it. Got it? And ladies, when you're in the workspace, you do that. I got something I do, boom, fix it. Follow me on that? Same thing at home. You might have to get something done, just like there's no time to waste. Which is why what happens is when I was having that conversation with my wife, there was very little conversation of that when it started out. Because what happens in the masculine form is all we're about is what's the problem. It's the WTP. You might want to write that down. WTP is what's the problem. So what's the problem? It's the first thing that we're thinking about anytime you do it, and then we're going to solve your problem. So that's why when I was having a conversation with my wife, what had happened was that I would ask her a question. Have you ever asked your significant other, honey, how was your day? And the answer is, it's good. What did you do? Went to work. What else did you do? Not much. Had lunch. Came home. Here I am, honey. Got it? Simple conversation. And you're like, that's it? And you're like, that's it. Right? If we ask you how your day went, and you're in your feminine form, what happens is, honey, I got up, I made breakfast for the kids, I got dressed, I put on some makeup, I got this beautiful gown on or dress, I decided to go shopping. You know what, I went to the bank in between, then I met Sally, and then when I met Sally, we got a chance to talk, and we talked about what we're gonna do in about 2 weeks because we're gonna get together. And on top of that, when I went to the grocery store, you know what, I made this grocery list out, but then I found out it's always that outer track shopping for the fresh stuff, but then I ended up seeing some things on sale. So the things I went to go buy, I ended up buying a lot more than what I was supposed to buy. So this list became like super long. I know how you feel because I used to do the same thing. So anyway, what happened was that I went through, and then when I was on the way back, you know what? I had to get gas because I noticed I was only at a quarter tank of gas. And then at the same time, when I got home, I finally said, you know what, let me put all the stuff away. And then I saw some rooms that were really, really dirty, so I had to clean them up, so I had to go vacuum and stuff. And then I had to think about, well, honey, you're gonna come home about 5 o'clock, so I got the timing, the kids and things like that, so I can just plan it properly so that I can put dinner on and start at 4 o'clock, so by the time you walk through that door, everything's good. How many people continued to follow me on that? How many people didn't? For the people who didn't, here's the situation. You were in your masculine.
I felt exhausted.
If you are in your feminine form, you heard everything and even can almost throw it back verbatim. Because this is what happened. Back in the caveman days, we had something called, this is what it is. The caveman went out, looked, went for the tiger, the lion, shot it, bam, brought it back. The women took care of everything else. While we are out, what happened was that the women had to go through this tall meadow, grass, and they had to get to the berry trees and pick the berries for the meal. But they had to make sure that they had to mark the berry bushes of which ones were poisonous, which ones weren't. Understand? Because the last thing you want to do is you want to poison your family. So we want to make sure we mark the thing. And when we're going through this tall grass, we want to make sure we found our way back. So we paid attention to detail and actually drew a string or whatever we had to do to mark the territory so that we can easily find our way back. Go figure that you're really good at maps and we can care less. Right? What just happened is really simple, ladies. You have something called a meadow report. And a meadow report is when we ask you how your day was, because of the fact that women feel and men think. Isn't it true that when we ask you how your day was, all you want to do with your loved ones and your girlfriends is share how your day was? Mm-hmm. I didn't say you wanted anything fixed. You just want to share your day. So while you're busy sharing your day, what happens to the guy is, follow me on this. This is really important. Does it ever aggravate you if your significant other, number one, cuts you off? Honey, I don't have time for this. Number two, when you're done, they turn around and go, is that all? That's like death. Any guy sitting here, Chevy, death. Okay, it's like, is that all? Because the last thing we want to do is we say, if that's all, the answer is, no, it's not all. Right, Michelle? I got more to tell you, and I got to go on. Oh my God, he asked me, is that all? Let me tell more. You have a meadow report. And what happens is you go on and on and on, and that's great. A meadow report, M-E-A-D-O-W. A meadow report. So what happens, ladies, it's really simple. Unless you want a hairy woman as your partner, we're not built that way. That's why you have girlfriends. If you don't have any girlfriends, you now have a whole bunch of girlfriends, okay? That's why you have girlfriends, to have that discussion. So if you wanted to find out when we were talking about, when I was investigating all this years ago, so my wife's like, well, when we didn't really understand it that well, it's like, you never talk to me. You never talk to me. What's up with that? It's like, honey, because there's nothing to talk about, right? I'm driving or whatever. So what happens is, when you're in the middle of the meadow report, this is important. As a man in the masculine form, we're searching for what's the problem. So imagine this, if you would, and it'll stick in your mind. When you start speaking with your meadow report, we're like this. What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem? After about a minute or two, we're sitting there like Glenda and my mother-in-law, they're like, I'm losing it. I just can't take this anymore. And it's like, wow, in other words,
What's the problem or what's the point?
Thank you, honey.
Masculine.
What I was going to say, which my wife took away my thunder, is after about a minute or two, when we figure out there is no problem in this conversation, we switch to the other WTP, which is, what's the point? So if there's no problem in this conversation, what the hell is the point of the conversation? Follow me on that? We're like, what's the problem? If there's no problem, what's the point? So ladies, that's the challenge. We're like, what's the point? So if you ever see your guy, like, you ever get that glazed look? Because what happens is, and I'll explain to you as a man what they can do, you just have to be present for your woman. Because I asked this question one time. Because I was like, okay, I get it. What's the problem? What's the point? And I'm supposed to pay attention to what's going on. The challenge is, what happens if she quizzes me? And I don't know the answer. And I was told, if you're present with your opposite sex, and you're present and you're with her, and you're not thinking about what's the problem, and you're just listening to her, what will happen is really simple. You will appreciate that, and you will never get quizzed. Because you know when we're present. Does that make sense? I could do an exercise, it's so easy, but we don't have a significant other to do it, but it's so easy to test you, and you'll know. We just put your significant other and just have each other stare at each other, and you'll know exactly when they're present or not. Got that? So here's a clue, ladies. 2 things, my words of advice. The average male can take your medal report 2 to 3 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes if they're really good. If you're dating, 10 to 15 minutes. You ever notice that? 10 to 15 minutes. Why? Because I want to know what you're talking about, Cindy. And I want to listen to you, and I'm going to sit there, and all of a sudden you're sitting there like, what happened? He was such a great communicator when we were dating, and all of a sudden when we got married, there's no more conversation. And what happens, ladies, is you start blaming your man. I thought Yardley was a great communicator until we got married, and all of a sudden he doesn't talk to me anymore. What's up with that? Because that's when you think the grass is greener on the other side. And you don't want to date anymore because you're like, I was better off dating the guy instead of marrying him. What happened was that this is the good news for you. He was just being a man. He was just being a man. And if you want to try to control him and flip him over to become you, because ladies, you want people who are just like you. Just like us guys, we want people just like us. But it doesn't work because opposites, and I didn't even have to finish the sentence. It doesn't work when you go like this, when you're masculine, or feminine. You might think feminine is good. By the way, when I went feminine, Lisa was in her masculine, and then she tried to be feminine later, like in the evening time. It works for like the first couple of times, first days, but after that, it's like, you know what, ladies, without a doubt, and whether you agree or not, sometimes you just want to be taken. Not hard or beat up, but you just want to be taken. It's like, right? It's like, yeah, that's a man. That's my man. He's taking control of me. You know what I mean? I was like, I like that. Does that make sense? Yes. Just saying. Yes. Is this helping you? Yes. Okay. Remember this. We're also what we call monofocused. So we're monofocused, and you ladies have that terminology of what we call multitasking. But another word for multitasking is something called diffused awareness, which means you have absolutely no focus, which means you're focusing on everything at the same time with like peripheral vision of everything that's going on, and you can have a conversation with 5 different people and know exactly where you left off on all the 5 conversations. We can't do that. It's not going to happen.
What's it called?
Awareness, diffused awareness. So that's why, ladies, when you're driving the car, you ask me to take you to the mall, this is what happens. Match the horse with the blinders. Mall, mall, mall. Everything you're doing when you're talking to us, it sounds like Charlie Brown. You ever see Charlie Brown, like the teacher? Wah, 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 wah. Honey, what are you thinking about? Nothing. What are you saying? You're not talking back to me. And I was like, why? You told me, because you asked me to drive you to the mall. So our focus is this. We're laser focused. We're trying to get the job done. You follow me on that? So you thinking you're having this conversation. My husband doesn't talk to me when we're in the car and we're driving. Get used to it. It's going to be a long drive. You got that? Because of the fact that you just asked us to do that. Right? Just remember that. You're multitasking. Diffused awareness. Here's the challenge with you. There's so much going on in your life. It's difficult to get almost anything done or even to control the conversation without you. You have to do it. Ladies, before you left the house, did you have to put everything in place before you walked out the door?
Yes.
That's why my wife broke her foot. A few years ago, I had on the top of the cabinet in the laundry room, I had a box that was hanging off like this, but it was just gonna sit there. It's been there for however long. My wife on New Year's Eve says, let me get up, can you push it back? I'm like, honey, when we get back from New Year's Eve, the box isn't going anywhere. There's nothing in the box. My wife's like, I have to. So she steps up on the dryer and goes like this, and all she did is go like that and fall down. And when she did that, she landed bad and she broke her foot. This was your typical example of being feminine, because you had this diffused awareness of everything that's going on, and you just, you can't help yourself, like, I gotta put it in place before I leave. By the way, if you're in your mask, you're like, I don't care, I'll worry about it later. Or he'll do it.
Yeah.
Right? He'll do it. Does that make sense to you? It's why when you're having a conversation, you're better off when you're having a conversation so that you can keep focused on whoever's talking to you. You might as well like go into a dark room. Or you need to put something on and go, okay, Sally, I'm ready to talk. Talk to me. There's nothing going on. Okay, so that you don't see what's going on or you don't hear what's going on, but that's kind of difficult for you. Got it? Oh, ladies, by the way, the secret to the meta report for your man is this, just to pre-frame them by saying this. Honey, there's no problem. Is it okay if I just share a couple minutes of how my day was? Does that make sense? Just pre-frame that. This way they're like, oh, there's no problem and there's no point. My wife just wants to talk to me. My significant other wants to talk. I'm okay with it. You got it? Because you will win so many points on that just from doing that. By the way, when it comes to points, let's talk about the masculine and feminine brain. Follow me on this. The man, right here, our brain, the way it's made up is, if you can imagine this, we have compartments in our head, like a filing cabinet. So if you know about filing cabinets, you open up a filing cabinet, there's folders in it, and then you just, you're done. As a man, what happens is really simple. We can only open up one filing cabinet and pull out one folder and look at the folder at the same time. When we're done, we'll put the folder back in, we'll slide the filing cabinet in, and we're good to go. So if you want to talk about money, boom, we pull out the folder or the money, and then likewise, if you want to talk about cars, you want to talk about whatever, we pull out one filing cabinet at a time. Make sense? Ladies, imagine this. Your head, if we cut this open on your brain, it's got a whole bunch of wires. And they're intertwined all over the place. It's kind of like you're the internet superhighway. You ever hear about that left brain, right? One side thinks and one side's creative. Your wires crisscross. So it never turns off. It's always on. It's like having a conference call with yourself on the left brain, right brain all the time. Isn't it a wonder that some of you have challenges sleeping at night? Because you're always you can't stop thinking. I tried to do that when I was with my wife. I was like, honey, our day is done, let's go. The challenge is that when we own our own business, my wife being in her masculine form is a little bit difficult because she doesn't. It's bad enough that she's in her masculine, she needs to get the job done, but then the feminine part in her says, you know what, I won't stop until I get, not that anyone here is guilty of it, I'm not gonna stop until I get the job done. Internet superhighway. Compliments to you. The one thing that we have, and some of you have heard this part before, is the man has one extra box. It is called the nothing box. And I hear some chuckles. That's right. It's called the nothing box. The nothing box is, there's nothing in it. So if you open up the folder or you went into the room, there's nothing. Imagine just a plain white room, no chairs, nothing. Just nothing. I know, she's like, Natasha's like, have you ever asked your significant other, honey, what are you thinking about? And the answer is?
Nothing.
With an internet superhighway going on, and the fact that you never stop, am I correct to say that as in a feminine form, you never stop thinking? Yes. Which is why it's sometimes difficult to go to sleep, which is why some people take Ambien, they take sleeping pills, they count sheep, they do whatever they want, they meditate, right? You can't possibly fathom that we're talking about nothing or thinking about nothing. Is that right? Is that true? It's like, that's impossible. It's the same reason why when you're in the car and we're having a conversation, what do you think about, honey? Nothing. What do you mean nothing? Like, nothing. Like, I'm driving to the mall. Nothing. I'm thinking about absolutely nothing. That's impossible. You have to be thinking about something. Right? Or because we're one-track minded and think, look, men say what they feel and what they think. Honey, do you like the red or the blue? Do you like this? Do you like that? We answer the question. It just is. Do you like red or black? Black. What's he really thinking? How's your day, honey? It was fine. Did you do anything? Nothing. You did nothing. And you're all day. And it was fine. That's impossible. You can't be fine. You were by yourself. You didn't even have a television to watch. You can't be fine. That's impossible. You had to be doing something else. You must be miserable. So you start conjuring all these different things in your mind that say, wow, this is the way it is. And it's like, wow, this doesn't make sense. You follow what's going on? We have a nothing box. It's our go-to box. This is important. It's our go-to box 80 to 90% of the time. It's our go-to when we get into stress. When we get into stress, the best thing we could do is do nothing. It's the reason why when we're busy doing nothing, ladies, we come home. One of the reasons is we come home and hit the remote. This mindless thing that you're sitting there like, what are you doing? I'm saying, I'm watching television. I've never seen anybody just go through stations. And how can you be watching television if you're flipping through so many stations? Because we're de-stressing. It's our nothing. It's the reason why when we come home, we sit and do nothing. As a man, in our masculine form, we need to calm down to take the stress away if we've been working all day. If you cut in and start conversations with us while we're trying to come down, we never come down. That's when you start seeing them, yell, scream back at you. Got that? We don't like that. We just need to chill for a moment. I know, ladies, you're saying, I never get a chance to chill. We need to chill. And we do in our nothing box and do nothing. By the way, our nothing box when it comes to stress, when it comes to fishing, it's like, what's the point? You're watching television, what's the point? That's your WTP. Anything that you can misconstrue from what a guy does, like what is the point of this, that's your WTP. What's the point of this? Why are you doing what you're doing? Who cares? Totally pointless. That's our point. Got it? It's just that it happens more often than us when we're listening to you. That's the WTP for you. But it's our go-to box for the stress because we don't want to think about anything. It's easier for us to just stress and think about nothing. I know you're jealous already. Come on, be honest. How many people wish they had a nothing box? It's not going to happen. Even if you're in your masculine sense, we had this debate. Even if you're masculine, you're like, yeah, I've thought about nothing before. No, you haven't. You haven't. You think you have, you haven't. Because I know what it is. This is what happens, ladies. When we're busy distressing, doing nothing, or watching a movie and doing, this is why I'm really good at watching movies. Love it. It's just like, I could be a bump on the log, and I'm okay with it. I don't need to have to worry about anything going on. Here's what happens. You're like, I'm jealous. Honey, can I be in that nothing box with you? And we're like, no, you can't. No, I just want to sit next to you. I want to watch the movie. I want to just do nothing also. All right, I'll give you a shot. So this is what happens to you. You sit down next to your significant other. You try to do nothing. You try to sit there and watch television or movie. You might like watching a movie, but after like the fifth movie, you're like, okay, what's the point of this? First movie was good. The second movie, okay, I was getting a little bit tired. But after a while, you're like, I can't do this anymore. Because this is what's happening when you're in the nothing box with us. Because now honey, can I just sit next to you and just chill while you're doing nothing? Yeah, okay. So while you're sitting next to us and you're cuddling up to us and we're doing nothing, you're just laying there and you're like, you know, these walls are really white. And I think we can put some furniture in this room. And if we painted the walls and put the pictures up, it'll look really nice. No! We don't need that. That's why this is a nothing box. Nothing. Nothing means nothing. Do you understand that? You're trying to dress this thing up. Honey, can you talk to me? Honey, can you talk to me? You have a problem? Just talk to me. No. Why is this so important? Because every time you're stressed out, you want someone to talk to. Isn't that true? I want to share my oh my God, I'm having a really bad day, and stuff like that. I just want to talk to you. I need to share with you. Honey, I don't have time for this. I'm just trying to chill out. You know, you talk to your girlfriends, and then you get pissed. Because you want to share your day with your best friend, and he doesn't want to talk to you. Right? True? That's why you have girlfriends. Unless you want a hairy man as your partner, that's why you have girlfriends. So 8 years when I was into my full-on feminine, I corrected my wife, and then I corrected myself. I said, you know what, honey? I am better girlfriends with your girlfriends than you are at this moment, because I learned that communication, and then I had to switch back. So when I had that role reversal come back to me, it was like, wow, it felt so good, because here I have this masculine and a feminine mask in front of the masculine, and my wife was the reverse. And it did not serve us at all, because in the core, it was just grinding us. It's like, this is not feeling good to my heart, okay? By the way, whether you're masculine or feminine, if you do go in your heart space, you always get the right answer anyhow. But ladies, you've got to get back into your heart space, in my opinion, and get out of your head and get into your heart. And learn to embrace and just, embrace your full feminine, like you did yesterday when you started to. And if you felt uncomfortable for a little bit, just keep doing your best and just do more of it, of the same, right? And I know there's some questions that are coming up that you're probably thinking, I have some questions for you, and we'll get to those questions in a moment. I know Joanne way back then had some answers, she had some questions, but is this helping you a little bit? So the idea is really simple. When we're stressed out, I know the fact when you're stressed, you want to share. The challenge is we don't want to share. The more we want to share, the angrier we get. We just want to de-stress. This is really important. As a man, when you're in your masculine, we want to fix things. We are independent. We don't want any help. We don't need any advice. If we wanted advice and needed this is really important. Remember I said we say what we mean? If we need or want your advice, we'll ask for it. Okay, one more time in case you missed that. If we need or want your advice, we'll ask for it. I know it's unheard of for your point, because you like to share, and honey, it's like, oh, I need your advice, and you'll give it to it anyhow. That's why you have your girlfriends. They'll give each other advice. I get it. And you're listening to each other. This hand, not going to happen. Because the more you interrupt us and try to help us, the angrier we get. Because we need to know that we can do it on our own. We need praise. Ladies, do you like having praise? Yes. Okay, we need it more than you. Because the difference is when we get beat down and we don't get praise, what happens is you don't need us. I'm trying to do everything for you. And all you have to do is criticize me all the time. The words that come out. You're criticizing me all the time. And anything I do for you is not good enough for you. Or you can't appreciate a damn thing that I do. And the challenge is that you're thinking, well, you should be doing it anyhow. Because what happens is there's a point system. And I know Eliana knows what I'm talking about. Some of you know in the audience. There's a scoring system. Did you know that? For the people who didn't hear it before, the scoring system kind of works like this. Imagine a day, if you would, as a guy, when we get up in the morning to go to work, we get up and we give ourselves 50 points. We give ourselves 50 points for waking up to go to work. We go to work, we work 8 hours, or at least 8 hours. We give ourselves 5,000 points for working. And then we come home and we did not stray from our destination. We didn't go to a bar. We didn't stop anywhere. So for that, we give ourselves another 500 points for not straying. By the time we walk through that door, we now have 5,550 points. There's no way, ladies, that you can even catch up to us because we're 5,550 points, and you just stayed at home doing nothing or whatever you're doing. This is why, ladies. We come home, we just sit down and put down the remote. Because number one, we're distressing. By the way, you want to give your man like 10, 15 minutes to stress, to decompress. The second reason is we're 5,000 points ahead of you, so you need to catch up. Got that? I don't know if it happens in your household, but sometimes it does. You need to catch up because our point system says we're 5,000 points ahead of you. Same day, ladies. Your man wakes up in the morning to go to work. Ding, 1 point. Am I right? You give him 1 point for waking up. It's like, you should anyhow. He goes to work and slaves a day, 8 to 10 hours a day. You're like, ding, 1 point. You get another point. Why? Because you should be working anyhow. You're the man. You give him 1 point. He drives home and doesn't stray. Well, you shouldn't be straying anyhow. I'm not even going to give you a point for that. You shouldn't be straying to come home anyhow. But you give him a point because maybe he stopped by to pick up the milk or whatever. Okay? So by the time he walks through that door, ladies, you're thinking, he's got 3 points. Meanwhile, you woke up and you didn't even give yourself a point. You made breakfast for the whole entire family. You packed the kids' lunch. You had to straighten up the house. You had to do the dishes. You had to vacuum the house. You had to go out shopping for all the groceries or do whatever you had to do. You had to make all the phone calls, plan all the doctor visits, yada, yada, yada. Then you had to make dinner for your man and the kids. And by the time he walks through the door, you've got like 14 points in your mind. And he walks through that door and he has the nerve to kiss you on the cheek or lips and sit down and sit behind a remote. Bullshit, right? You're like, what are you doing? Get off your lazy ass. Because you've got 14 points and he's only got 3. Do you see there's a slight communication error challenge? Because the interpretation is, your point system is 1 point, 1 point, 1 point. And meanwhile, the guys are like 5,000 points. So do you understand what's going on here? So we tried to give the guys a little clue on how ladies, and we asked the guys, and we'll help you on this one. So there are a couple guys in the audience here. Ladies, would you rather get 1 rose 12 times a year, or would you rather get a dozen once a year? Anybody for just a single dozen? I'm good for the year. Okay, that's what I thought. Here's what happens, and we didn't know this. We didn't know this about you. So just so you hear where your guy's coming from when we give you the roses for thanks, we give you the roses for your birthday or the flowers that you like, and we give the flowers that you like on Valentine's Day, right? Maybe if it's a holiday, we'll do something. This is our thought process, just so you're aware of it. Why in the world would I give you 1 rose for 12 months, once a month, when I can just give you 12 or even 24 roses in one shot? Number one, I'm becoming more efficient. That'd cover the whole year. Matter of fact, if I do it your birthday and Valentine's, I got it twice a year. I'm good for the season. Does that make sense? Secondly, I think that if I give you 12 roses or 24 roses, I'm going to get like 500 points for it because it's more. More is good. More is good. Meanwhile, you're like, no. If you were thoughtful enough and gave me 1 rose, even if it's just 1 rose, once for 12 months, you would get a point, a ding for each time you did it. Got it? Right? So that's why you do it. And then what we teach the guys is that you can actually earn passive points. Because ladies, isn't it true? Here's how the guys can earn passive points. But there's nothing you can do about it. But when we teach the men, it's really simple. If you plan a vacation, do you like surprises? Raise your hand if you like surprises.
Yes.
You only like the surprises that you expect.
Yes.
Because if I told you we're going on a vacation and all of a sudden I'm going to take you to the South Pole or something and you were prepared for this bikini weather or whatever, you might not like that surprise. Is that a correct statement? Yes. But here's the challenge in our mind is that we're going to surprise you with a trip or do something. Here's what happens. If it's a good surprise, you might like it. But here's what we think when we give you this beautiful surprise. We get 500 points for the surprise. Meanwhile, you're like, Ding, 1 point. So we teach the guys, if you want passive points, it's really simple. Tell your significant other, honey, I'm going to take you to this exotic vacation. We're going to go first class. We're going to have this beautiful suite. We're going to be 7 days in the sunny, wherever your favorite spot is, location. And we're going to just do it up, and we'll just have a great time. And if you want to invite some friends, we'll bring some friends, or if it's just two of us, we're good. So here's what happens, ladies. Tell me if I'm wrong. You're like, oh my God, this is so good. I mean, would you agree that would be like a really cool thing? It might not be a surprise, but you like the thing. But here's the best part for the guys. Do you think you're going to tell your girlfriends about it? Yes. My husband's going to take me on this beautiful vacation, right? He's going to take me on this fantastic vacation. I can't wait and stuff like that. And what happens is when you do that, the endorphins kick up in your mind. You're like, ding, 1 point again. So not only did he give you a point for doing it, every time you talk to another girlfriend, it's ding, 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 ding. And then when you go on the vacation, finally, you get another ding. So that's why as a guy, we're like, honey, if you want to earn passive points, just tell them in advance. And you'll get the points automatically. You don't have to do squat. You just tell them ahead of time. You think that the surprise is good, but telling them ahead of time is even better, right? Just FYI. By the way, we like to expand on things, men, and make things bigger. It's kind of like how big was the fish? It was this big. Got it? Because when we're bragging, we do get into our own meta report. If you ask a man something they're passionate about, you can't shut them up. If you talk about sports, or you talk about a hobby that they love, they'll just go to town and they'll never shut up. By the way, now you know how we feel. But the difference is now you know how we feel all the time, talking to you. But if you hit a hot spot on something that we're passionate about, bam, you can't shut the guy up. Isn't that true? When it comes to efficiency and let's just talk about money or carrying things around, we like to make things smaller. It's the reason why guys have they have wallets, or my thing, I just have enough room for credit cards and I have my cash in my right pocket. Does that make sense? We like to minimize and make it travel efficient. Got that? Ladies, in the meantime, for some strange reason, you like to pack the world. And we don't have the purses here, but if we did, I usually take 3 purses and we just drop it in front and we could just go through the purse. And we found out something historically all the time, and some of you might smile. You have purses in purses. You have the wallet in the purse, and you have another small you have the makeup bag in the purse. And if that wasn't enough, you have the wet wipes. I get the fact that you have kids, you got to cover yourself. So you got to have the wet wipes. But then you've got all kinds of toiletries and stuff like that. The purse is like this lead weight. I was like, wow, you want to be the man and practice your weights by lifting the purse back and forth. You got that? I was like, that's amazing. It's like, how much weight is because you like to expand and make things, and got to make sure that everything's just in case. Just in case. And it'd be amazing if you pulled out all the purses, because there's so many similar things, and some people probably average have 2 or 3 purses in your purse. And your purse is probably weigh 5. The only time you don't have a purse is when you're going on to a fancy evening affair, party, dressed to the hilt, black tie affair. All of a sudden, you went from this giant purse to all of a sudden this little satchel of this purse that might carry a lipstick. Or my wife's thing is just so small, she's like, she makes me carry it. Right? Isn't that true? Have you ever done that? It's like, yeah.